Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Techstron Unplugged. I'm your host, Natan Solomon, and this is episode 30 of our series. In this episode, we're taking you to AI Dev Summit 2024. There, our co-host Cassandra Chen met up with Daniel Bernardi, and they talked about building inclusive developer ecosystems and automating the future. Daniel is the co-founder of Sonans and a former head of developer advocacy at Twitter. He explores the potential of AI to automate processes, reshape industries, and drive innovation. Without further ado, let's head over to AI Dev Summit 2024.
Welcome back to Techstron Unplugged. My name is Cassandra Chen, and today we're here with Daniele.
Say that right. Hi, everyone.
Can you introduce yourself?
Yes. So I'm Daniele, right now the co-founder at Sonans. We are building a marketplace for AI developer tools. And prior to that, I've been at Twitter, where I was heading developer advocacy and community, working with developers and basically building the Twitter developer ecosystem.
Do you want to talk a little bit more about the queer developer ecosystem?
For sure. It's one of the things I was mentioning is how underrepresented the queer community may feel, especially in the developer world. When you go to certain events or conferences, or even when you start your own business, you feel alone towards like a sea of people trying to speak like the same, look like the same. And I think it may feel discouraging at first, but it's actually one of our strengths. I represent the queer community, being queer myself, is to really have that mindset to think different and to really get to understand a problem from a different perspective and to solve it with solutions that are off the beaten path. That's one. I also realized, like, when I go on stage and speak, that I basically represent not just the company or the product. I also represent that cohort of developers there. And so in the way, obviously, I look, in the way I speak, in the way I try to relate to the audience, I try to bring that aspect because I want developers to relate to my experience and vice versa. I think that's a good aspect because in the end, we're like humans and we try to help one another. Myself, as somebody who's worked in developer relations, my job is to really help developers build something amazing and to show them why they should care about building. And so we want to make sure that happens and the message gets across in the most empathetic way possible.
I think that's really special how you're like representing the community when you speak.
Yeah, I can take just as much credit, but when I was at Twitter, for example, I had a fantastic team and those people were bringing their best selves all the time. And that was one of the great things about that team that really wanted to be there with the audience they wanted to represent, work on the exact use cases for which those developers were trying to build solutions for, and just be that use case, be the voice of not just the company, but those developers. And so I actually took inspiration from there. Before I joined, I was nothing like this. And then I realized that this was an advantage, actually. It might feel like you get a ton of weird looks or people look at you in a strange way. But in the end, when you have a voice and you have a platform to speak, then it's obvious that you are approaching things differently. And this actually becomes almost like advertising for yourself. Like it's your personal brand. And so putting your own identity into the developer relations is actually important. And it really gets you to help other developers feel more part of that community. That's part of, obviously, a business value that really is compatible with getting more audience and getting more engagement. So it's best of both worlds. The company wants you to have more engagement. You want to be yourself to represent as many developers as possible, be more inclusive. The two things are compatible with one another.
It's almost like you turned something you could be scared of into something you're really prideful of.
Absolutely. And I was scared. If you looked at me 10 years ago, 15 years ago, where I was again, nothing like this, I had to come out still. So I was this straight guy in a gingham button down, and I wasn't really standing out. But it's as if the content was in there. I just needed to let it out, and I could not, because I thought that in order to deliver the content, I needed to look or appear or act like everybody else. That is not the case. The case is like, you need to be comfortable with who you are before you jump on stage. Like I wouldn't be here speaking at conferences if I didn't feel comfortable with myself. And the moment I found that, I also found joy in really telling the message, interacting, and delivering kind of a message value to other developers. So what you say is absolutely right.
I can say now that like I'm really happy for you.
Thank you. I hope to be obviously an advocate, not just for myself, but I want to show people that there's no reason in hiding, and so I want to be the best self, so other people can realize that if they also are the best selves, things can go well for everybody. Everybody benefits from this.
Yeah, definitely. Do you want to talk about how you got started into technology?
Yes. I started into technology at a very, very young age. So my dad one day came back home with a computer. And my very first thing I wanted to do was to, instead of like playing games, was to really figure out how to build something. So I remember I was probably like 10 and I like spent like time trying to type in programs that would never work. My first computer program was something that said, please draw a clock. Just like, today's in generative AI, you had prompts that like look like that. I figured out that you could prompt a computer, but the technology wasn't there in a way. And so obviously at this time when I was like 10, there was no AI. And so when I wrote that down into a computer and pressed enter, nothing would work. And so that's why I started to learn, take an interest into computer programming. And I started basically from basic. Then I went to C, C++, Java, PHP, and JavaScript. And
So you really learned a lot of languages?
yeah. In the end, you realize that the language doesn't really matter. Like today, I'm basically doing most of the time Python. And I actually dialed down a ton on JavaScript, which was my forte like 4 years ago. So it really doesn't matter. What matters is how you think about the product. And to me, the passion about like building something and showing how it works and solving a problem was exactly what hasn't changed since I was 10. So that was my hook into how I got started into building something.
I think that's a really unique perspective, that it's not about the language, it's about how you think.
Yeah. It's like I spend a ton of time with engineers, and I don't get the highest like joy in like discussing like optimizations or language features, but that's part of my nature. Like, so I'm built to solve problems, and so I rather build something that's not efficient but gets you there than like constantly optimizing. To me, like my role is to be the fire starter, and it's always been like that throughout. So in the end, for me at least, the language doesn't matter. But if you ask a full-on engineer, I think the language does matter, and their functionality and the efficiency they have out of a particular language. That's why I actually prefer these days Python, because it's so intuitive and there's a like thriving community out of it, and like performance-wise, it's also pretty good. So like all in all, if I need to get started with a project, I probably go there because that's where all the community is, and I can build much faster thanks to the help of all the things that have been built so far. Plus, the language is amazing, obviously.
What technologies are you passionate about today? Is it mostly about AI, or?
It's more than AI. I'm actually interested in the potential of AI. Like everybody seems to be talking about RAG or agents, but nobody is really understanding that those are the building blocks that you can use to build something amazing. Like just like 30 years ago with the dot-com boom, when the internet came, people were talking about object-oriented, Java, servers. Then nobody really had thought of the next Salesforce or the next Amazon until somebody came, and the name was Jeff Bezos, and built that big thing. That is the big difference. So what I'm really interested about is to understand what are the potential the potential mass adoption drivers for AI. In particular, like we're seeing today, everything is conversational. You still have to talk to an AI to get something done. And in that case, like we feel that our mental overhead is lighter because we don't have to do that thinking job anymore. We just have to task the AI with something. But then the productivity is questionable. Like we might spend actually 1 hour telling the AI how to exactly do a task, when the task, if we did it ourselves, would have taken us 20 minutes, and that's a problem. So to me, what I'm trying to understand is, what is the next automation tool there? What is the next Zapier looking like? And figure out what is the next frontier of the internet based on what all this kind of combination of tools can do.
That's a really deep thought.
Right, but that's also the post, like, coming from a developer ecosystem, developer relations background. That's exactly what you need to think about. It's more like, developer relations, we used to historically we used to go on stage and talk about the product and talk about the set of APIs, and then let the developer figure out how to use them. I think this pattern has flipped over the past few years, and what I used to do with my team, obviously, at Twitter, was exactly start from the why they should care, why you should actually build for the Twitter developer platform. And we started with that question, like, what are the drivers there for developers? Developers have so many choices. They could go and build for the metaverse, they can go and build for AI, but then why should they build for Twitter? And so we made it clear that Twitter wanted people to monetize their apps, that we wanted to put developer apps in front of Twitter users, so developers were compelled to build more. And from there, then we reverse engineered the use cases. What are users on Twitter looking for? They're looking to make their timeline more healthier. They're looking to organize their bookmarks. They're looking to understand and learn more things that they didn't see before. And with that, we basically built a series of apps and use cases. So that's why I keep thinking about, like, so deeply about the implications and the use cases and the solutions, because behind all that, there's a ton of thinking about the problem.
Yeah, I think that's really important.
Yep.
Are you giving a talk?
Yes. So I'm going to be talking just probably an hour-ish about how teams, especially EDPR teams, so engineering, product design, and research, organize themselves or not for AI. So I've seen, because of my new business, I've been talking to about like 30, 35 leaders in VP of Eng or CTOs, and try to figure out what's their pulse of the situation on AI. Some are completely bearish. They don't want to even think about generative AI. They think it's a toy, and they do not even experiment with it. And then there's teams that just embraced full on their teams, that did reorganizations. They constantly evaluate new patterns, new products, and some in between. So I'm going to basically show the various stages of bear to bull and what's in between, and why certain leaders think about AI in that certain way.
What's the reason to try using AI?
Again, going back to the problem, why you should care about AI. There are so many useful applications. One is efficiency, and that is where pretty much the vast majority of companies who invest in AI are after. They want to do something that didn't scale before in a way that scales. So, for example, if you deal with large quantities of data entry, no matter how many people you put on the job, it's always going to have a fixed cost in terms of time, So it's not going to necessarily scale much in terms that manual operations are going to be much more expensive, but they're just like so time consuming. AI instead is very good at detecting patterns, and so it makes it very good for data manipulation. And so that's the one big thing that happens. For example, one of the things that AI does pretty well, and one of the main use cases across many AI-driven orgs, is summarization of large data sets. So out of a 300,000 pages document, give me the 4 or 5 key bullet points, or just summarize a book. These kind of things are very good. And when it comes to doing pattern recognition or trend analysis, or thinking like financial services here, legal, healthcare, risk management, all these kind of aspects are very much something for which we see a ton of adoption for AI.
So there's a lot of reasons and benefits to using AI.
Yeah, and also like for end users, like employees within the company, could also benefit from using AI, from adopting AI. We've seen that all over. A lot of companies try to build their assistant, their agent. You want to have your personal co-pilot. Everybody wants to build something along those lines because the bet there, the vision is that AI is so accessible now that when trained properly, it could really take your mind off the most like mundane tasks and optimize your work. In engineering, this is key already. We've seen that with some companies like Devon. They're building their own LLM to basically have a full-on engineer. Microsoft a few months ago released a proof of concept where it had this concept of agents. So each agent is an AI that talks to another AI as if they were in a team. Those AIs were trained to be engineers, and so they started building code based on a small prompt from an engineering manager, and the human would basically just like watch the result and suggest some changes. That is like the new frontier, the future. I don't know how far or how near we are from that future, but definitely like when you see co-pilots and like I myself like use AI all the time to help me assist with certain like coding tasks that I don't want to deal with, like database migrations,
Yeah, that's definitely interesting.
Yep.
I think we've had a really good chat today.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Daniela.
Thank you.